Hey, what's up, everybody? As a lot of you may know, I have a 1991 GMC Cyclone, Cyclone number 1313, and Cyclone came out when I was 15 years old. So that means when I turned 16 was when the Road and Track article came out, where they lined it up with the Ferrari 348 TS, and it blew the Ferrari's doors off in everything except for the 0 to 100. So the 0 to 30, 0 to 60, the quarter mile trap speed, all that stuff. But the 5-valve Ferrari, of course, once it really opens up, and because the turbocharger was a compromise. It was originally for the 2.2, I think it was the Sunbird, Sunfire, or something like that, but a little Pontiac 2.2 liter. So it spools up quickly, but it runs out of juice fairly quick. But yeah, I mean, the fastest production vehicle that year, and unfortunately, because they only made it for 1 year, and a lot of the parts, it's a hand-built motor. You know, the truck was sent to PAS in Michigan, Performance Auto Services, I think it is, and they went ahead and took the motor apart, a bunch of other things too, but put it all back together. And so this intake, there's many things that you just can't get anymore. I had to recently get a custom steering column rebuilt. Not custom, it's the original, but it was so hard I couldn't even find a used one. I had to have a dude in Texas rebuild it. Pretty awesome. High beams aren't working. We're gonna get that worked out. But today, what it came down to is I have my intake tube, and as you can see, where our filter, or where the air box would go, right? This would go right on the end here, or this is where it would go into the stock box, has already broken off, right at where there's the little extra lip, and then there was about almost an extra inch on that, and that is long gone, unfortunately. Now that I'm doing this, I wish I had saved that part. It's very well possible it might be someplace else, and I might actually be able to add that on later. I did sand this down a bit, but with epoxy, what we're doing today, it might be possible. And so what it came down to is I'm not able to get the stock replacement. There's, at one point I saw one, they wanted like $600 for this. This is like what, ABS plastic, right? I mean, it's shaped, sure, but that's pretty insane. For a while, you were able to get carbon fiber replacements. People were actually making them. I forget, I think that was also in the realm, something like $400 or something like that. But it's been a long time and I haven't found anybody to make them. And so what I decided to do was to go ahead, take my intake, fix it. So this is the turbo end. This is where we go right into the turbo hose, goes down into the turbo, up into the intercooler, into the engine. And so this had cracked. I had actually had this duct taped. I know, as crazy as it sounds. This thing was completely broken. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't completely broken. It completely broke when I just took off this duct tape. But it was substantially broken. I had a bunch of duct tape around it. We had the hose on it. Took a lot to clean that off. Don't recommend doing that. So now we're using epoxy. And as you guys can see, what I did is we went ahead and taped it together on the inside. And now some of the epoxy is seeping through. That's fine. We're going to go ahead and sand that out at the end. And in fact, I'm actually considering, because of the way the plastic is molded on, you see how there's the little lip there? On the inside, there's a little lip. I might actually fill that in with epoxy, sand it out so it's a straight shot so we don't get any turbulence right there. I know it's a tiny little minor thing, but while we're in there, we might as well do it. So what I'm doing now is I'll show you, we have unfortunately one spot, can you guys see right there, where there's literally a chunk that's missing. And I certainly hope that did not go through the motor. If I remember correctly, it actually broke off a while before. This is one of the original brakes, and I think we just discarded the piece because we did not believe we were going to be able to fix this. At that point, I thought I was going to be getting the carbon fiber, a pure carbon fiber intake. So what we did is we went ahead, we mixed up our epoxy, and so what this epoxy is we're using is actually in this is a carbon fiber sheet. So I have woven carbon fiber in here. And this was normally all polished up. You notice it's very matte right now. It's because we went ahead and we sanded it. We went ahead and roughed it up all over. And once this is all set up, what I'm gonna have to do is find some sort of jig or something to hold this in place. I'm considering maybe finding something to be able to stand it up, right? Because what I need to do is have something that will hold this so that we can go ahead and epoxy everything, apply our carbon fiber, re-epoxy, and then we will start our sanding, and we may do a couple layers of epoxy depending on what we really need to do to get it. We do want the least amount of epoxy possible, but we do want enough that we can sand it, get it to a super wet gloss shine, and not break into the actual carbon. We want to make sure we have an epoxy coating on top of all the carbon fibers. So that's what we're aiming for. So at this point right now, we have this on here, and as it dries a little bit more, it's still a little wet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep trying to apply a little bit of pressure so you guys can see it's pushing a little epoxy out. I want it to be a little bit tighter. I don't want there to be spacing in the epoxy as much as we can avoid that. So it means I'm gonna have a while sitting here holding it once it becomes a little more firm. At that point also, in fact, I might do it fairly soon. I'm gonna have to take this tape out of here because obviously I'm not gonna want that tape on the inside to be totally stuck in there. So yeah. Unfortunately, guys, because of the corruption with my computer, I lost a lot of this footage, so I'm gonna have to use stills and talk you through. But the gist of it was that we layered the one layer of carbon fiber, and then I ended up doing 3 different layers of epoxy. Each one I laid it out, sanded down a bit, did a new layer, sanded. I used 4 different pieces to get the original contour and everything done, and it looked pretty good. I drove around with it for a while this way, but ultimately it wasn't perfect, and I thought I could do better. So I actually dual layered, put a second layer of carbon fiber. So this is 2 full layers of carbon fiber. I then went ahead and put a total of 3 coats of epoxy on top of that. Once we got done with the epoxy, we went ahead, did all of our dry sanding. We then went ahead, did all of our wet sanding. Then at that point, I took out some different compounds, and I actually used Meguiar's aluminum and magnesium polish to go ahead and polish this up. And it actually worked perfectly. It looked great. And this is, I actually could not be happier with these results. So this turned out perfect. And one thing that I guess I'm stoked on is, since the piece was broken anyway, my original piece, I still have my original piece. So I don't plan on ever selling the truck, but if I did, I could say, hey, this is legitimately the stock intake. It's just been upgraded, and it has been. So I think this was a cool project. A couple things to note. First of all, the epoxy is a huge pain in the ass and runs everywhere. Make sure you have extra plastic cups to mix your epoxy in. Make sure you have extra gloves. Make sure you have extra mixing sticks. And one thing I might recommend is going to like a 99-cent store or something like that and buying a bunch of cheap paint brushes. I destroyed a bunch of fairly decent, some, I won't say expensive, but good quality paintbrushes when all I needed to do was go to the 99-cent store, get some super cheap ones, and that would have been a better way of doing it. And the last thing I will note is this takes a lot of time. There's a lot of time setting it up. There's a lot of preparation time. There's a lot of time waiting for it to dry, and that's not even getting into the hand sanding that I had to do. If you have a mechanical sander, it could go faster. Keep in mind, you don't want to burn the epoxy, and there's things that I wanted to do it by hand. So anyway, I'm just, it worked out great. I'm super stoked on it, and I do recommend that if any of you guys have a broken intake, that you give this a shot.
Another thing you could do, of course, is S-Glass. If you just want to go with fiberglass, that will be a bit stronger and it won't look as cool. Another option, if you want to, is you could go with Kevlar, which would be just about as strong. And then you could technically say that your intake's bulletproof. So that's just my opinion. Anyway, thank you so much for checking this out, guys. I should be coming out with some new videos as soon as I have something on the truck I got to fix. Do me a favor, on the way out, smash that like button. Hopefully by now I have earned your guys' subscription. Best thing you can do to help my channel is to share this video. If you guys see anything that you would do differently or have any comments on things you would like me to cover in the future, please leave a comment. Thank you so much. Everybody be as safe as you need to be out there, and I'll check you guys out in the next video.